Hello and welcome to the Heart of Markness Led Zeppelin podcast, episode 229. It is February 1st, 1969 at the Fillmore East. And this is a date that has been in a little bit of dispute over the years, but I think it finally landed that this particular show, this is the late show, is in fact the 1st of February and not the 31st of January. In either case, it's the Fillmore and it's Led Zeppelin. This is as their first tour is winding up. They have a couple more weeks and a couple more shows before they head back home. And this is the end of the tour where they are the supporting act. Where they started at the end of December as literally and supporting act. And then Led Zeppelin as the opening act. And now this is, from what I've read, more of a shared bill already on their first tour with Iron Butterfly. They're still opening for Iron Butterfly. But as we've all heard over the years, the legends that nobody wanted to follow Zeppelin after this because it's a hard act to follow. It's similar to when Van Halen opened for Black Sabbath in 1978. That's a tough act to follow. But let us jump in. This is a bit of a rough tape. Not too bad, especially considering it's from early 1969, recording a band which was still unknown. So, brace yourself. It's not that bad, but it is overdriven in spots. Lovely show. Powerful. On the heels of the legendary run at the Boston Tea Party just the week before. And what can I tell you? Led Zeppelin, young, 20 years old, Bonzo and Robert Plant. 20-year-old boys conquering the fucking world. The first thing I'm going to play for you is, it's a very short set, by the way. It's only 6 songs, although there was alleged to be a 7th. It's Train Kept A-Rollin', I Can't Quit You, Dazed and Confused, Pat's Delight, which is what Bonzo's drum solo was called before Moby Dick, How Many More Times, and You Shook Me. Supposedly Communication Breakdown was also played, but it has not been captured on any tape, which is in public circulation. So, we get what we get, which is still pretty darn good. It's a good time to be a Zepp fan. Now, let's just jump right in, shall we? I'm going to play the first 2 songs, Train Kept A-Rollin' and I Can't Quit You, just as one, because altogether they're still less than 8.5 minutes long, and it's good. And they flow, and it rather than have that abrupt cutoff before I Can't Quit You starts, I just kept it in. So you're going to have a little twofer there. So enjoy it, friendos. Train Kept A-Rollin' into I Can't Quit You, baby, all together from what is most likely the late show, February 1st, 1969. A very long time ago. Thank you, mysterious taper, probably Bill Graham, since it was the Fillmore, for taping this so we can listen to this 54 years later. Jesus. All right, enjoy.
you very much indeed. Good evening from Led Zeppelin. That was something promoted to us called Can't Quit You, mate. Carry on with a thing off the new Led Zeppelin album.
So quiet and polite, not shy, always the front man. Excuse me. Whew. I lost my voice yesterday, and I have been fighting it, so excuse me if I sound a little Winnie the Pooh-ish. Oh, bother. There we go. Sorry. As I was saying, he was already a front man at 20 years old, and by the time he's 22, he's in the biggest band in the entire world. And he's still a front man, and he plays the audience like a fiddle. And at this time, in the peace and love days, he's very peace and love, which is where the whole metaphor of the audience as an ocean comes from, because of the give and take nature of the dynamic. The group was very good at feeding off the energy of the audience, using that to propel them, and then firing it back at the audience, who then ramps up and fires it back like ping pong. So good. And it wasn't until the mid-70s when they kind of aged out and their audience became, teenagers, while they started inching towards their 30s, where it became more performative again, which is, what the whole thing is, a performance. But, yes, very good. It's remarkable how tight and mature they sound when they're playing I Can't Quit You. Because it can be, especially in the early days, especially on this first tour, they were still a little wild. Bonzo he had a lot of Animal from the Muppets in him. And he almost would go off the rails. He and Jonesy were not locked in tight all the time yet. I mean, they were still remarkably great and remarkably tight. And Robert's voice was a little wild and out of control too. But not with the blues. And I love that. It's crazy that, it's February 1st, kind of. And you go back a month. And they're nobodies. Just less than a month before, I think they were playing the same venue on the 5th of January. I may be completely wrong. When I remember this stuff, I usually am. But it was much more tentative. It was still amazing. But already, they're still on their very first tour. They're not doing Yardbirds tunes anymore, except for Train Kept a Rollin', but they open with that and, whatever. But there's none of the For Your Love. There's none of the Over, Under, Sideways, Down kind of references. It's remarkable how quickly it's like they emerged from the chrysalis fully formed and just needed to spend just a few moments fanning their wings, drying them off before they took flight. Unreal. I've never, ever witnessed an ascension like this band had. And it was earned. And it was all word of mouth. Because remember, they weren't doing television. They weren't doing press. Because Rolling Stone shit on them immediately. And they said, alright, well, fuck everybody then. So this was all word of mouth and FM radio, which was still fairly underground at the time. It was very unregulated in that it wasn't owned by one giant company, which owns all the radio stations now. It was actually owned by people. And you could play an entire album side. And you could play Miles Davis. And then you could play Charles Mingus. Then you could play, Jesus Christ, Alice Cooper. And then Bob Dylan. And then Van Morrison. And then Funkadelic. It was if you remember those days, if you were around in those days. Now, I came up at the end of it. Just at the they were wrapping it up. Boston was one of the last great radio towns, and I was very lucky because WBCN stayed pretty cool even as it was being, choked out by the corporate culture, it's still the DJs still had enough clout and ratings to push back for a very long time, and it was wonderful, man. Back when DJs mattered. Fuck. All right, well, that's enough wool gathering. Hey, everybody, let's listen to Mark be old. Well, I am only playing one more song, so we might as well do the spiel, huh? You can find me on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube under the name Heart of Markness. On Facebook, there's a Heart of Markness group with a couple hundred folks who like Led Zeppelin, like the podcast, and like classic rock. It's a great place to hang out. It's very chill and low-key. You can ask questions. No one will yell at you. And it's it's a great place to talk to me, have a dialogue. If I were younger, I would have a Discord, but I don't. So it's a Facebook group. There. There's also heartofmarkness.com, which is where one goes to get the shows. It's a neat little rhyme, and so it goes. Heartofmarkness.com is exactly like I just rhymed. It's a website I have where I post not only the podcast, links to the podcast, but also links to the shows that I feature. So that show that the show that we're listening to tonight, all the songs, the 5 songs or however many songs I read off to you earlier, 6 6 songs. You can get them all at heartofmarkness.com. Look for this podcast. You can, if it's way after when the podcast came out, and I'm on episode 8 trillion, and this is episode 228, just use the search function. Search for episode 228. There you go. And everybody will love you forever. And you know who I love and who I will love forever? I just opened my stupid Patreon page, and it's like, hey, you want to sync your account to Spotify, don't you? Sure you do. We won't even ask. We'll just make it happen. That's okay. I do, but come on, man. Give me the illusion of autonomy. Anyways, who I'd like to thank and who are the people I love are my patrons, the people upon whose shoulders rests this humble yet very mighty podcast. And they are, actually no, they are. A Laurel and hearty handshake go out to Lisa, Keith and Tilda, Brian, Steve, George, welcome back, brother, Big Ed, Kenny, John from West Footscray, Picard, Knegarn, Rob from Melbourne, Australia, Wayne, Brad, Danielle. Been too long since I've spoken to you, Danielle. I should touch base. Tracy, ditto. Been a long time since I've talked to you. Other David, Bonzo Billy, and Mimo. Thank you, friends. What's the money do that you use to support the podcast? Does it support my lavish lifestyle? Yes. I pays for such things as, you hear that sound, that constant humming in the background that might be bothering you? That, my friends, is an air conditioner. You see, it's 104 degrees outside in Portland, Oregon, because the world is ending, which is hot. And I have a giant room on the second floor of a house, which is beautiful, and hardwood floors, love it, leaded glass windows, beautiful, hot as hell. This little air conditioner keeps it cool, keeps me from dying, and keeps me from not wanting to do my podcast. You guys pay for that. You guys pay for the SoundCloud, where I actually host the podcast. That costs money. You pay for the Mega Cloud hosting service, where I post the shows that I share from you. More money. You pay for the website, where I host the link to the cloud service, where I host the shows on the podcast that's on SoundCloud, where it's hosted. More money. It piles up. This microphone through which I'm speaking to you costs money. I didn't buy it. A wonderful patron and good friend did. That's what it does. It helps me keep this thing going. It pays for it and keeps me honest, because on nights like this, when I'm like, hey, my voice has been cutting in and out, I could take an L. I don't, because I'm like, you know what? No, there are these people doing this. I have an obligation. And that's true, because if it weren't for you guys, I would be more sporadic than I am. Back at the beginning of the podcast, I went almost an entire year between episodes. I I wander off on my own a lot, so this keeps me tethered to the ground and keeps me moving forward. And I love you for it, and thank you. Look at all that. I wasted more time. Ring-a-ding-ding. If you would like to be a patron, you get your own podcast a month. I'm changing it a little. Everybody's going to get, I think, a podcast a month, regardless of the tier. And then the two higher tiers will get an extra special podcast every month. I've been doing the extra special podcasts every month, and I want to give something to everybody, so I think I'm going to do that. I'll change that maybe over the weekend, but I'm not going to be here, so probably not over the weekend. Anywho, patreon.com/heartofmarkness if you're interested, or when you're at heartofmarkness.com getting all those free shows, guilt, there's a Patreon button. Click it, see if there's something there for you. Alrighty. And you can also contact me through any of the avenues that I listed earlier, or Mark at heartofmarkness.com. Sometimes I take a little bit to answer, but I will answer you, and I will love you forever. Doesn't mean we'll be best friends, though, but we might. All right, back to it. Ladies and gentlemen, February 1st, 1969, Led Zeppelin. Remember them? Wow, how long have I been talking? A very long time. My goodness. All right, let's listen to How Many More Times, okay? Okay. How many more times? Bum, bum, bum. I'd like to introduce Led Zeppelin to you. Here you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to say good night and thanks very much for having us. I'd like to introduce Led Zeppelin to you. On bass and Hammond organ when it's available, John Paul Jones. John Paul Jones. On drums, Gumbo. Lead guitar, Jimmy Page. And myself, Robert Plant. in the sight. In the sight. In the sight. All right. In the sight. Oh, my loving. It's all gone. It's all gone. Come again another day. I've got you in the sunlight. No, that's not. That's not. Oh, my loving. Thank you very much. Good night. Good night. Good night.
And there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, Led Zeppelin. Beautiful, amazing. They're babies. They're babies. And they're so good. Shh, I'm talking. Thank you. Well, friendos, we made it through another one. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Next week is episode 230. And I've got like 360-something episodes total. It's ridiculous. Who'd have thought? All right, my friends, please be good to yourselves and be good to each other. And I will talk to you next Thursday for another Led Zeppelin show. Maybe, outside chance, because I'm not here this weekend, that there'll be a classic rock episode. There won't. But there might be. There won't. So, see you next Thursday, and I will also try and get a Patreon one done, etc., etc. I love you. Goodbye. Oh, and Zoso means